This week, we'll be exploring two of Croatia's most popular destinations, Dubrovnik and the island of Korcula. We'll also be exploring two other Balkan countries, Montenegro and Bosnia.
Croatia, Montenegro, and Bosnia are three of the 6 present-day countries that made up the former country of Yugoslavia. Meant to be a union of the South Slavic people, Yugoslavia only lasted from the end of World War I to the 1990s, when a violent and ugly conflict pinned each of the region's ethnic and religious groups against one another. Today's borders were mostly drawn along those same ethnic differences. While it's certainly worthwhile to read up on the intriguing history of this region, all you really need to know on a quick visit is this.
Croatia is mostly inhabited by Croats, who are Roman Catholic. Montenegro is made up of Serbs and Montenegrins. Serbs will tell you they're one and the same. Both are Orthodox. Bosnia is a mix of all the different groups. The most predominant group are Bosniaks, and they are Muslim.
We started our trip in Dubrovnik, which, if you're coming to Croatia, is the one must-see destination. The walled-in city of Dubrovnik is in the south of Croatia, jutting out from the mountainous mainland into the Adriatic Sea. This one-time rival of the mighty Venetian Empire is better known today as the real-life setting of King's Landing from HBO's Game of Thrones series. Even under the quasi-socialist state of Yugoslavia, Dubrovnik was a popular vacation destination. The tourism industry was devastated in the 1990s after the war. Even just 10 years ago, Croatia was still somewhat of an undiscovered destination. But today, the country is part of the European Union, and there's no shortage of travelers strolling down Dubrovnik's main boulevard. Dubrovnik can get very crowded with cruise boat passengers during the day. The best way to enjoy the city's ridiculously charming ambiance is to be here before or after the invading tourist hordes. Virtually all of Dubrovnik's charm is within the old city walls. The modern infrastructure and most of the hotels are in the new sections of town. While it's not cheap, I would highly recommend trying to get one of the very few hotel rooms or Airbnb apartments within the old town. We found a room in what seemed to be the most perfectly situated hotel in Dubrovnik. We had a balcony, a little square in front, and a great view of the Steps of Shame. Dubrovnik was a rival of Venice, but its proximity to the Ottoman Empire made it far more reluctant to show off its wealth through art and architecture the way Venice did. As a result, there are few museums or truly memorable buildings. But what Dubrovnik lacks in sights, it makes up for in atmosphere. This is probably going to be one of those vacations where you're going to want to just slow down and simply enjoy the quiet lanes, delicious food options, and maybe even get a drink on one of the city's famous bars on the rocks outside of the walls. When Yugoslavia broke up, Croatia got most of its coastline. Any trip here will most likely include a swim in the sparkling turquoise waters of the Adriatic Sea. In Dubrovnik, there are 2 good options that are very convenient to the old town. The first is a little beach just beyond the old harbor. It can be crowded, but there are chairs for rent and a little restaurant turned nightclub in the evenings that serves drinks and snacks. Your second best option for swimming is the little island of Lokrum, just offshore. Government-run ferries make the trip frequently from the old harbor. If the area around the ferry dock still seems a little crowded, then just start walking in any direction. On the island, there's an old monastery with a Game of Thrones exhibit, A few little restaurants, lots of nature paths, and enough rocky coastline to find your own little secluded swim spot. Dubrovnik makes for a good jumping-off point into several of the countries Croatia was once unified with. The tiny and beautiful country of Montenegro, just to the south, is a great day trip option from Dubrovnik. Montenegro means Black Mountains, and the country has some of the most spectacular fjords this side of Norway. Montenegro became an independent country in 2006. It's not a member of the European Union, but it does use the euro currency. The spectacular Bay of Kotor behind me is a popular cruise destination, and at only a 2-hour drive from Dubrovnik, it makes for a perfect day trip. The walled-in city of Kotor is nestled deep in the fjord, protected by a series of fortifications and towns that stretch out to the Adriatic. The city was once a southern outpost of Venice. You'll still see the symbol of Venice, a winged lion, carved into the little city's mighty walls. Kotor's main attraction is climbing the walls, which are far more steep than Dubrovnik. Make sure to bring lots of water and comfortable, sturdy shoes, as the path can get quite slippery. Even just halfway up, the view is awesome. While much of Montenegro resembles a cheaply built Soviet resort town, the Bay of Kotor is a well-protected UNESCO site. On your drive to the town of Kotor, you'll pass by some beautiful Italian Renaissance towns like Pirost, which is famous for its little church that sits just offshore and was created over hundreds of years by sailors who would throw rocks onto the same spot in the bay every time they returned home safely. Speaking of sailing, we're off to our next destination, the Dalmatian Islands, which are just a short ferry ride north of Dubrovnik. There are several to choose from. Two of the most popular are Hvar and Korcula. We chose Korcula.
If you're choosing a Dalmatian island to visit, there are many to pick from. We chose the island of Korcula for its laid-back atmosphere and really pretty medieval Venetian-inspired walled city.
Korcula is both the name of the island and the name of its main town. Korcula town is the well-preserved Venetian city that supposedly was the birthplace of Marco Polo. On the town's old gate, you'll see the winged lion of Venice. Inside the traffic-free walls of Korcula, you'll see a lot of Marco Polo. The walled-in city of Korcula occupies a little peninsula that juts out into the Adriatic Sea. A popular row of restaurants lines a seaside promenade offering spectacular views. Just underneath are rocky beaches, perfect for a morning swim, an afternoon cool-down, or to just lay out and enjoy the warm Mediterranean sun. Korcula town is tiny. You can walk from the sea through the mini St. Mark's Square to the town's only land gate in less than 5 minutes. There are accommodations inside the wall and out. Inside offers more ambiance, but there are fewer rooms. Airbnb is a good option here, but it doesn't necessarily come cheap. There are a number of tour companies in Korcula that offer a range of activities, from kayaking and jet ski rentals to snorkeling and beach hopping. There's also the nearby town of Lombarda, which can be reached by water taxi. One of Korčula's most beautiful beaches is just outside Lombarda, pushed against the sea by ancient vineyards. Croatia grows a lot of wine. If you come to Korčula, be sure to try the Grek wine. You won't find it almost anywhere else, even in Croatia. To explore even more of the beautiful island of Korčula, you can rent a car or hire a motorbike.
Today we're driving out to one of the little beaches in the middle of the island, and we just stopped for lunch at a cute little town called Pupnat.
Although we just randomly stumbled on it, this turned out to be the best meal we had on our entire trip. You can read more about it on our blog. just down the road from Pubnat, is one of Croatia's most beautiful beaches, the wonderfully secluded Pubnatska Luka Beach. If you're looking for a perfect way to spend your last day on Korcula, you'll find it here. Imagine a mountainous, medieval Eastern European country where most of the residents just happen to be Muslims. That's Bosnia. This country suffered terribly during the Balkans War, and the physical scars can still be seen in pockmarked buildings across the country and cemeteries like this one in Sarajevo, which was under siege for nearly 4 years, the longest siege of any capital city in the history of modern warfare. Over 13,000 people died, and many are buried in cemeteries like this in the hills around Sarajevo. One of Bosnia's most important cities is Mostar. Its beautiful Ottoman-era bridge was blown up in 1993, but has since been rebuilt. The Balkan War hit Bosnia particularly hard, the reason being that it was an ethnic conflict, and unlike Croat-dominated Croatia or Serb-dominated Serbia, Bosnia had a mix of all the region's ethnic groups. Today, the country is peaceful, but a tense calm exists. Even in Mostar, the church spires, mountainside crosses, and minarets look to an outsider like a not-so-subtle attempt of showing cultural dominance. If you were underwhelmed by Croatia's culinary scene, then Bosnia is sure to reawaken your taste buds. Grilled meats, doner kebabs, sausages, and a spicy pepper eggplant dip are plentiful and cheap. And then, of course, there's the Bosnian coffee, which is strong, unfiltered, and served with a sugar cube and a piece of Turkish delight. Sarajevo is the largest city and capital of Bosnia. It has an old quarter that, like Mostar, was built by the Ottomans. Also like Mostar, there's a little alley in the middle of the old city lined with blacksmiths hammering away at copper plates and Bosnian coffee sets. The city has a number of mosques, but also a lot of churches. The historic and Islamic core of the city is surrounded by a more modern one, built by the Austro-Hungarians that ruled the country after the Ottomans. Long before the Balkan Wars, Sarajevo was infamous as the place where Archduke Franz Ferdinand, who was the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was assassinated. His death at the hands of a Bosnian separatist triggered World War I. The best way to experience any culture is to mix with the locals. Since we were here for a wedding, that wasn't difficult. Bosnian weddings are just like any other. There's a ceremony where the bride is veiled and spun around before being sprinkled with coins and candy. There's also your standard cake cutting ceremony. And finally, the part where the bride jumps on her cousin's shoulders and belts out Bosnian pop tunes. Since that's my last memory of Bosnia and the Balkans, it's from the beer hall in Sarajevo that we say goodbye and happy travels.